G'day guys, Jake here from Fecon, here to talk about the CEM36 Fecon Excavator Mulcher. This mulcher here is rated for the 7 to 15 tonne class excavator. Ideally, we like to see it from about that 9 tonnes onwards, just to give you that bit of stability when you're working over verges. Fecon here make this in 2 rotor configurations. The FGT, which stands for the Fecon grinding technology, as we can see here, fitted with a double-tipped tungsten carbide cutting tools. The other option we have is the depth control rotor, but we're going to talk about the FGT today. The FGT came first with the Fecon excavator mulchers, and this represents the 3rd phase now of design. Being an open face rotor with the tools directly bolted to the holders with a double tungsten carbide tips. These tools are made for ground engagement, contracting, areas where rocks and stones just can't be avoided, or just for that guy that wants to go from job site to job site and doesn't know what that terrain is going to have in store next. The advantages of the double tip carbides is if you are going to be in the dirt, usually on a knife edge tool, that would wear down your faces. Whereas with the carbides, that tungsten is a very hard wearing material, so if you're going to be working continuously in the dirt, you'll get longevity out of these teeth. The other benefit we see in the FGT is it can also be equipped with the knife edge tools, and we have some bit more information online about those options and those configurations, but we'll just continue to talk about this rotor here today. So it comes to the CEM36, so compact excavator mulcher, about 36 inches in operating width. In metric terms, that's 913 millimeters of working width. So it keeps that nice and easy on the overall length of the excavator. It keeps you in that compact market. This is a little bit of step up from the video we did last week on the FMX range. This here weighs a little bit more at 668 kilos. Important to know when suiting a mulcher to your excavator. You look at your safe working load and you use your hitch in that. So we like to say about 700 kilos all up with the hitch and the mulcher. So with this mulcher all the way around, it features the 421 millimeter diameter rotor, a little bit bigger than the FMX, and again a bit smaller from that next size up with that 500 millimeter rotor. Runs between 64 to 150 liters of flow. Ideally, we want to see up around the 70 litres of auxiliaries, just to make sure you can compensate for the straying timbers. A lot of competitors will always base their lower spec, not taking into consideration that when you're moving your dipper arm, your boom, your tracks, you're going to be diverting flow if you don't have a double gear pump. So ideally in Australian conditions, we want to try to get you around that 70 litres minimum of auxiliary, just to get that full potential out of the mulcher. We would rate this mulcher in the FGT configuration here at about 300 millimeters to its maximum working diameter. Again, if you were to run some knives on this, you could get into a little bit larger timber, but with the carbides here being that all-purpose rotor, we're going to run around that 300 millimeter diameter. Like all Fecon mulchers, it's a 3-hose system, so a pressure return, a pressure supply, and a case drain. The case drain, pressure supply, and return are the only hoses you'll see on a Fecon mulcher for the excavator range. We don't use any electronic harnesses because we don't run a trapdoor, because the material discharge on a Fecon naturally shoots down at a larger angle due to how it is built in a more upright position. So keeping it a very simple fit up for your machine. We at Fecon Australia, and for your dealers, will build a custom hitch to suit your machine, whether it is a standard hitch or a rotator, aftermarket, whatever you have, we'll custom build that hitch to suit your machine. So hoses, hitch, everything to suit your machine. Very simple system. It uses a 55cc Rexroth pump to generate its power. So variable pump, so swelsh plate inside the pump, meaning that it will virtually adjust itself to the different terrain. So if you're in heavier material, we'll spin down that rotor a little bit slower to suit that heavier timber. If you're in a bit faster, the variable will adjust to use higher RPM to cut in thinner material. So a little bit more of a adjustable motor. But there again, all States components, so everything from the ground out is built in the one factory in Ohio, and we here are the importer and distributor for Fecon, and we're very proud of that fact. So a question we get asked a bit is, what is the maintenance for Fecon mulchers? Well, your day-to-day maintenance is very simple and very easy to do on a Fecon mulcher. So Fecon utilize floating bearings in all their mulchers. So what that means is it is easy greasing, but also easy to get off the stub shaft. But we're just going to focus on your day-to-day maintenance. So we've got 2 grease nipples on opposing sides of each rotor going to each bearing. It requires 4 shots of grease every 4 hours. But usually we like to say you can't over grease this, so much grease as you can. When using the grease gun, we prefer to use a hand pump because a hand pump will actually give you 4 shots of grease for every 4 pumps. So when coming to grease them, this is your most crucial thing. Make sure you've got a good grease gun and make sure you are pumping the grease into the bearings. For other maintenance, for motors and tuning, it's very easy access. Fecon give you these rear panels here that both come off with 4 bolts. This will give you access to the tuning side of the pump, and this will give you access to the valve block, whereas a lot of competitors are through the top. So having this easy access means you can have this mulcher at any height to get into these panels and access the components inside. Rear debris chain to help debris from ejecting backwards or to the rear of the machine. So very standard, just 12mm chain links with a rod all the way through, and you just want to give it a little pull at the start of the day, at the end of the day, to make sure there's no damage there. On the side here is access to the polycarbonate chain belt. Now, this is not a lifetime part, but very close to. It's not classed as consumable because polycarbonate has no stretching quantities about that material. So, cog chain belt, singular belt, doesn't run 3 or 4 V belts or Kevlar belts. So, with that having no deflection or no stretch, virtually we call that set and forget. So, comes from us PD'd. You don't really need to take that cover off for maintenance at all. Fecon also utilize these 2 brackets here on the CEM36. This is for the attachment accessory or the thumb grab. So if you're having a little bit more log work on the ground, or you're doing root balls, or you're trying to stack piles, having that grab and utilizing a blade on your excavator gives you that ability so you don't have to swap from mulcher to bucket. So cool little bracket there to activate that thumb grab. The only other thing we like to do on the day-to-day checks is the teeth. Obviously you want to make sure there's no missing teeth on it, there's no damage. Give it a bit of a spin around, make sure there's no weights missing. Just having a good sight of that mulcher. Both the DCR and FGT are currently in stock. Feel free to jump onto fecon.net.au, or alternatively call 1300 Fecon 1 for a quote, or to be put in the direction of our local dealer.